Doesn't matter.
Hey, welcome. So glad to
Thanks.
have you. So thanks a lot for
Yeah, happy birthday.
thank you so much. That's really cool.
Yeah.
Hey, let's go. But
I'm super
thanks. So go ahead, Tom.
No, I'm super excited. I read the your resume and I'm so fascinated with all the COVID stuff. That's not anywhere what I was expecting. I was sort of into the producing and I was all excited and interested in that, but I'm more excited in the COVID. I'm completely petrified of COVID.
Uh,
I'm a cancer patient, radiation patient. I'm going and I'm a teacher and I'm actually in school with kids. And I'm going, this is the worst possible scenario for
what
me.
school do
And
you teach at?
what's that?
What school?
I teach in Orange Unified at Villa Park High School.
Okay. I have two 16-year-old nieces that go to Mater Day.
Oh, right on. Oh, they're
And
fully back to school, huh?
yeah, they go back to school and then something happens and the kids come home and go, I don't want to go back. They find out that the whole baseball team has COVID
Yeah.
and then 2 or 3 teachers come down with it. But the administration never calls and says, hey, we're going to send everybody back home. They just let them keep coming to school.
It's
Yeah.
crazy.
Find out. Yeah, it is such a, I am completely terrified of COVID.
Yeah.
And I stumbled into it. I was working on a TV show called Holy Moly. It's an ABC extreme kind of reality miniature golf show.
Okay.
And we built a big set out in Santa Clarita. And it's basically the same kind of setup like oh my God, what is this show that it has the big red balls and
Yeah,
they
yeah.
wipe out.
Yeah, Wipeout.
So we do kind of the same thing. So you play miniature golf and most of the time you get wet, you fall into something or something drops out or whatever. So it's a fun show. And I was in the middle of shooting it when we got shut down. And so we literally had to, bail a set. So other than the camera equipment, which is so expensive that no one was going to let it sit there, we walked away.
Mm.
So my boss kept like 3 of us on, and over Zoom calls like this for about 2 months, we sat and figured out, how do we come back? How do we tear it down? What do we do? And when are we going to come back? And so we finally, and how much is this costing us having this stupid set sitting there collecting dirt and mud and
Wow.
dust, right? So I worked on that. And then she finally said, you know what? I've got to lay you all off. So I got laid off like probably 2, 3 months after everyone started getting laid off. And I sat for only about 5 weeks. And she called me back and said, okay, the state of California is going to let us come back. We're going to put this back in storage. So we're going to pack up this thing and I want you to be in charge of COVID. And I'm just, oh, okay, I'm not in the medical profession. I know not, I failed biology.
Yeah.
And you're gonna, so here's all the, I'm emailing you all of the information, figure out how to do it, figure out what we do, go find a company that's gonna test our crew and let me know how much it's gonna cost. So I went out and I found this company called Direct Care. This guy is a headhunter for hospitals. And he basically said, he basically created his own company. He just went, oh, look there's a need for, people to get tested. He opened up a boutique shop. I swear to God, it looks like you're going to sell t-shirts and shoes
Really?
on Melrose Boulevard. And then just started charging people $200 to get COVID tested.
Wow.
Which is completely nuts. So I go to him and I make a deal with him. Of course, we're not paying $200, but I make a deal with him. He gets me the nurses and I start testing the crew. I need 80 people to tear down this set because it's literally physically tearing down the set and putting it into storage and packing up all the props and all that stuff. So I literally need 80 people. I get them all tested. And at the time, this was June. And at the time thought, you get tested, you don't have COVID, go, go and
Right.
work.
Yeah.
So I sent a bunch of people out there with masks on. I walked, I hired 4 other people to help me walk around and kind of like patrol these guys and make sure that everybody was being safe, which at the time I had no idea what being safe was all about. And we packed up the set and we put it in storage. And my this executive producer says, so the other show that was going, that we were working on, they only got to shoot 3 episodes. So can you come on that show? And can you keep that crew, safe? It's called Full Bloom, and it's another reality competition show. And I'm like, okay. But she also says, what can you also do the COVID, but also do your regular job, which is a production manager, a supervising producer. So the next thing I know, I'm like in the middle of it. And I literally wake up probably 2 months later. I've worked like 16-hour days. It was brutal. I also have I have this one guy who started his we just finished a first block of shooting, and now we started our second block this past Monday. And he was definitely a guy who told me real super clear that he would have been at the Capitol on January 6th.
Wow.
And he is working, and literally, he's a tall white guy, and he tells me that, and I'm thinking to myself, dude, you're working on a show that's called A Black Ladies Sketch Show. There's nothing but Black people and Black women on this show.
Wow.
What are you doing here? And he's just like determined, like he's gonna work there, and he's a guy who shows up and he's in the worst mood possible. I mean, he's always in a bad mood. He's pissed off that I make him get tested every day. So, because he's a dolly grip, which basically is right on top of the camera. And so he is right next to our actors. So he's got to get tested every day. And he literally has tried to talk me out of this every day for the first 2 days.
I'm surprised he hasn't opted out. Like, why doesn't he just go find another job?
His show got not canceled, but it got shut down because of COVID. So he comes, they hired him
for his sins. He's on that show.
Yeah, and I'm like, so I decided that I was going to kill this guy with kindness. It was the last thing I was going to do. Like he was put in my world so that I could basically figure out, how do I deal with people? How do I deal with these specific people, right? So it's easy to deal with people that are going to be nice to you and are fine, but this guy's going to be my challenge for this shoot time, right? So he comes every morning. Hey, how you doing? How's it going? What are you so happy about? Like literally one day he told me, what are you so fucking happy about this early in the morning?
Oh
I just
my
went,
God.
well, I go, I don't know. I'm just happy today. It's just
we have a job. We're getting paid. Like, that's pretty good.
I'm saving those. I'm saving those parts. But so he just goes, what do you want from me? Where do you want me to go? What do you want me to do? Because every day it's like he shows up and he's like, do I have to get tested today? And I go, you know what I want you to be today? I want you to be negative. Go and be negative.
Does that come in your job? Do you see that a lot, Kathie? Was that kind of attitude because of again, maybe the people you work with or the business? Is that kind of abnormal?
You know what? It's a job where you put a group of people together that are all very different. Like, I've got electricians, I've got art directors. So they all have their different ways of operating, working. Then there's the actors, and then there's production assistants. So everybody's coming at it. And so you almost have to figure out, how can I put this group of people? Most of the time when you're hiring people, you're thinking, are you going to be able to get along with everybody? Can you, and sometimes you don't really, you think you're very talented. I really want you on this project. And so I'm willing to put up with your bad attitude, or I'm willing to deal with you. We had, I worked on a show where we had a executive producer. He was a showrunner. The studio wanted him really badly, but literally this guy had an anger management issue, sexual harassment, all of it.
Mm.
And we had to go through all of these freaking classes. And I was thinking, another class about sexual harassment, another class about anger, whatever it was. And I finally said, why are we going through all these classes? What is happening? And then I get explained, it's because of this guy. Like, we're really doing it so that he will take the classes. It's not about you, it's about him.
Right. Yeah.
So it's just, and I said, why don't we just fire him? But he's very talented and he comes up with really great ideas, and they're willing to put up with it, or they're willing to try to work with him.
Sure.
And I'm kind of torn between that. Like, it would be so easy to encourage somebody to fire this guy, the guy that's giving me a hard time every morning. But why? There's going to be people I'm not going to get along with. I might as well figure out how to work with them, I'm just going to, and I told him one day, I'm going to make you laugh. I go, you're going to come here in the morning and COVID adds like an extra layer. Like, if you had a 9-to-5 job, you have to show up at 7:30 to get tested and wait for your test results before you can start work. So now on productions, we have 10, 12-hour days. So now I've just thrown another hour and a half to your day. They're not happy.
Talk about your leadership style. What do you, how do you set up
leadership style? Well, I think, so at some point, I don't know, probably, you start getting midlife crisis and you start going through all of that. My midlife crisis, I bought a 65 Mustang convertible, red, white top, pony, white interior. And I drove that sucker for 5 years, and I sold it for exactly the same amount of money I paid for it. But
Nice.
That's awesome.
so it was a really nice deal, but that was my midlife crisis. I wanted to climb Machu Picchu, and I happened to stumble upon a 65 Mustang convertible that I had wanted when I was 16, and my father wouldn't buy me. And so I decided that was my Machu Picchu. Oh, no, I'm going with the Mustang convertible. So I drove that thing all over Hollywood. Everybody always knew me from that stupid car, but it was really fun while it lasted. But somewhere after that, I sort of started like examining leadership skills, trying to take like some classes. I've kind of stuck with Brene Brown, she has a podcast, and she has like her Dare to Lead. I listened to it when I was driving from Long Beach to Encino every day. And so I had a long time in the car, and I listened to her, and basically her style is about listening to people, giving them their place to like, not, don't listen to answer, listen to, to understand. So I started to do that, and I forced myself to like listen to especially like younger people that I was hiring, instead of going, oh, these millennials are driving me crazy, which they will drive you crazy. But I started to listen to what they were saying. I started to figure out, okay, I'm now in the spot where I have to be the mentor, and I have to help you figure out where you're going or what you need.
Right.
So once I sort of honed in on that, which took a while, it took about 10 years. I got into my 50s and then went, oh, okay, so let's, all right, here we go. I've got to stop and listen. I remembered that I read this quote. It was a Benjamin Franklin, and it was in tell me and I forget, teach me and I remember, involve me and I learn. The last time I really wanted a job, and it was seriously I went to, my friend called me up and she said, hey, I'm working on Once Upon a Time in Hollywood, the Quentin Tarantino movie. And I said, oh, cool. And she goes, I need a favor. You want to be Al Pacino's assistant? And I'm like, and
Sure.
I think, wait, the Al Pacino, like the real Al Pacino? And she goes, yeah. I go, fuck yeah. So she says, well, he's got to like you. You have to come, you got to meet him, and he's going to have to like kind of suss you out. Like he's kind of one of those kind of Zen guys that just wants to like does my energy meet your energy kind of thing, right? So I'm like, okay. She goes, so come over tomorrow and I'll introduce you to him and let's see, you know, what he thinks. So talk about pressure.
Yeah, how do you prepare? How do you prepare for that? I mean, do you wear a certain shirt? Do you put on glasses?
Yeah,
or?
you put on your lucky underwear and hope for the best.
Come on, Kathie. Tell me that there were 75 outfits laying out all over.
Yeah.
No, I did. Yes, I figured out what I was going to wear. So, but what's so crazy is that I rehearsed because every single person I've ever been on an interview for always says, so tell me about yourself, right? Isn't that the first question you get? So tell me about yourself. So I rehearsed that. I rehearsed it at home. I rehearsed it in the car. I went all the way over to the office and I show up an hour early and I get told by the production manager, hey, Al's early too. And I'm like, no, I'm not ready, you know? And he says, Al's early too, come on. Next thing I know, I'm walking into this room and it was really bright outside. And so it was super dark when I walked in and I couldn't see him like at first. And I ended up like 2 feet away from him. Like he was,
oh my goodness.
And I went, and he goes, Mr. PACINO, this is Kathie Lucero. Kathie Lucero, this is Mr. PACINO. And I said, oh, nice to meet you. And I shook his hand. I went, nice to meet you, Mr. PACINO. And he goes, oh, call me Al. And I'm like thinking, oh, hell no, I'm not calling you Al.
That was the first test.
And the first thing he says, so what are we doing here? I'm like, oh my God, that's not the question I rehearsed.
Did you tell him that? You said, this is not what I rehearsed, Al.
No, I said, I heard you need an assistant and I'm your girl. That's literally what I said.
Nice answer.
So we're kind of talking and he goes, oh, is that water over there? Like he walks across, it's a big giant room, right? So he walks across the room and in a side door comes Quentin Tarantino and Leonardo DiCaprio. So
ambush.
I'm on the opposite side of the room. They don't see me. They just see Al Pacino, right? So they go straight over to Al Pacino and the three of them start talking and I'm completely like I'm sitting on this chair in the corner and I'm thinking to myself, how the fuck do I get out of here? And then they start to talk to each other and they're talking about the scene and how they're, you know, what their ideas were and Quentin's ideas and everybody's. And I'm just thinking, they don't know I'm here. Well, Al does. They don't know I'm here. I want to get the hell out of here. Like, I don't want to be a part of this rehearsal. So I literally shimmy across the back wall and open the first door I see and run out the door. So that was my first experience.
Was it the coat closet?
No, believe me, I was so grateful it wasn't because I would have sat in there for 2 hours while they rehearsed.
Wow.
Oh my goodness.
So what was the next meeting like?
Well, he basically told me, I want you to meet Trish, and Trish turned out to be his hair person. And, you know, she was the woman who created, I don't know if you ever saw it was an HBO movie where he played Phil Spector with a crazy ass wig. Okay. She built that wig for him. Huh. So she's been doing his hair for like 17 years. And basically if she approved of me, I was in. So of course she did, because we had a mutual friend that we figured out was a mutual friend, and I was in. So I spent 6 weeks in Hollywood on that movie being his assistant. Yeah.
Was that your favorite show? Was that what you have the most memories?
Probably. Well, that is like more of a celebrity thing, like more, it was an amazing movie to work on. Yeah. But I think my probably personally, just me personally and like a family thing. I worked on the 2000 Democratic National Convention at Staples Center. Oh, wow. And I invited my dad and his best friend, and they went on to the podium. You know, that was the Al Gore time. So they were there. Like we weren't allowed, I have no pictures of it because we weren't allowed to take any pictures, but he literally was standing on the podium where Al Gore would be nominated. Nice. And I have never seen my dad that proud. like, and, people were like walking by, hey, Kathie, oh, this is my dad. Oh, hey, Mr. Lucero, they were, so it was kind of like this weird moment where my work, doing a great job or doing the job I do, and my dad seeing me at work sort of came together, and it was really awesome. It was awesome. And he was bragging about it all the time, and just, it was nice.
Can
So
you talk?
what does a production manager do? Tell us a little bit about how that job goes.
So the production manager is, let's see, I want to put it like almost like the assistant coach. So you are trying to figure out what every department needs. So lighting needs this, and camera always needs to order extra equipment, or they want a new gizmo to work with, there's always problems with wardrobe. They always need more. They always need, they need more help. So you take all of those things and you start to solve those problems, or you put somebody to solve them for you. When it comes to the talent, though, the talent is usually handled by the production executives, co-producers. They handle all the major talent. And so they handle their deal. So if somebody like, I'm trying to think of who, we had somebody that came on our show, and, you have to find out, like Steph Curry is the host of Holy Moly.
Oh, wow.
And he has a writer, and the writer, it comes with like, this is what I want to eat. This is what I want in my dressing room. This is, like his big thing is, he likes to have a JBL pill, like one of those little speakers. And it's a specific one that he has to have. It can't be like, can't just be whatever, it has to be that. So I always have to send somebody out to go buy that, because somehow it always gets lost, from one season to another, or the last time he was here, he, and you have to like get those little details, because it makes them happy and they come out, I had to, at one point last season, he was in the playoffs and they're playing, and they just swept Portland, and he is basically saying, you have to come up here for me to shoot my scenes. So we pack up the whole set, not the, like we have a clubhouse set. We pack it all up and we take it, up there, and we set it all up so he can come in and shoot his scenes.
Wow.
That's
And
cool.
you just make sure that, he's just swept Portland. He's happy.
What is so I'm a teacher and my wife's a nurse, two of the most uninspiring, boring jobs in the
Are you
world.
kidding? A nurse?
No,
Come
wait,
on.
but the choice you make to be a nurse, and the choice you make is usually for stability and for retirement and those kind of
Ooh,
boring issues.
stability.
And we have two kids. We have two boys that are, 33 and 26. And I always feel bad for them because I don't have any inspiration when it comes to careers. Like, what should you do? Well, you should go be a firefighter. You should go be a cop. You should go be a teacher. How did you decide that show business? I'm just going to say show business. How do you decide show business is what I'm going to pursue? Because to me, that's not even on the list of possible careers.
Well, when I started like community college, I left St. Paul and went to Rio Hondo, and I started taking acting classes.
Oh, nice.
And about 2 years in, I realized I'm a horrible actress. I'm just not good at this.
Well, how do you know that? What is that?
Well, I was auditioning for a lot of stuff, and I just knew there were so many better people that were doing it way better than I could ever do. But I also had a teacher that completely inspired me and said, hey, how about why don't you be a stage manager? Why don't you do stage manager on the next play? Or why don't you direct the next play? I did. And I realized, oh yeah, that's what, and of course my dad the whole time is going, an actress? What? Why don't you become a teacher? Become a teacher. And I'm just like, I go, yeah, it sounds interesting, Dad, but I don't know. I want to be an actress, so so I go off, but what happens is, you want a new car, you have car payments, you want your own place, you want your own apartment, you got rent to pay. So I went and got hired at K Jewelers. I worked for K Jewelers for 10 years.
Oh, wow.
I did all of their window displays, and I was traveling all over the country because they had like 700 stores.
Wow.
And it was really nice, except that one morning I woke up, I was like 35, and I woke up and went, you know what? I never got my bachelor's degree. At the time, I didn't, I wasn't going to go get an acting bachelor's degree or anything. So I just decided, what do you really want to do? What do you really like? And I always art, photography, that was my thing. So I decided, you know what? I'm going to apply at Cal State Long Beach, Cal State Fullerton, and UCLA, because they all had like really good art programs. So I got accepted into all of them and decided UCLA, had to go to UCLA. So I went to so I left. What was really the irony of it was really kind of funny is that I was about to quit after 10-year career at K Jewelers. I was about to quit and they laid me off. And they gave me like a 5-year severance package. So,
5 years.
That was the days. Those were, the 90s, right?
See, that's beautiful. That's clean living.
Yeah.
Oh, hell yeah. I go off and I study art at UCLA, and I get like a great counselor there, art counselor, who's an actually really famous painter. And he tells me, I work for you. When you turn over your tuition check, you're paying my salary. I work for you. So come and exploit me, come and use me, and come and make me work for you. And when he said that, like, at 18, you're not going to understand that at all. But at 35, I totally understood it. I was at his office door every single office hour. I bugged him for, like, what should I be reading? What art should I be studying? What should I be looking at? What shows should I be going to? Art shows. I had a great time. And then I realized all of my photography, I wanted to make movies. And so I said, I'm going to transfer to the film department. And he goes, no, you don't want to do that. And I said, why? He goes, because we're going to let you make all of your bad movies here in the art department. He says, those guys are not going to let you make whatever you want. They're going to make you work on somebody else's project. He goes, you can work on whatever the hell you want. We don't care. So wow. I did. I had a great time, graduated, and then got my first job as a PA, as a production assistant for, actually I was Bob Eubanks on the Newlywed Game. I was his production assistant. I sat outside his dressing room. And this was the revamp of Newlywed Game. It kind of like came back. Right. So I sat outside his dressing room. I had a walkie-talkie. It was my I didn't even know how to use a walkie-talkie most of the time. But I'm standing there and he would come out and he'd go, you know what? I'm kind of feeling like sushi from across the street. Can you go get me some sushi? Sure. So I get on the walkie-talkie. Hey, Bob wants sushi from across the street. Should I go and get it? No, just stay right there. And all of a sudden somebody would come over, they'd hand me the sushi, and I'd knock on the door and I'd hand him the sushi. I did that literally for a whole summer.
Do you remember the fellow's name that was your counselor at UCLA?
Larry
Pittman. So I have a girl that I went to school with that went to UCLA and is now a production manager in a bunch of shows. She was on The Floor is Lava. She's on Point. She's on some stuff for the National Geographic. But I can't believe there's a connection there that you went to UCLA and the other person that I know went to UCLA. I wonder if she...
Was she an art major? What was she studying?
Don't remember. Now I'm going to have a conversation with her now. Her name is Mickey Ramos, and she's from Norwalk, and she's, she went out to...
and I was late to the college game. So like I'm with kids in school at UCLA who are 16. They're dyeing their hair blue. They're experimenting.
Oh yeah.
And I'm like, no, I just need to get out of here. I need to get a degree and get out of here. So yeah, it was really interesting to go back to school.
We have a mutual friend that we coached with for a long time who he's in the business as a construction, works on construction crews, and he's made it as he's pretty well known for what he does, and he runs crews now, and he's but he hooked in with a group of guys that were really well known. So he did a lot of really cool shows. Is that kind of how the business works? I mean,
it's completely how it works. It's who it's your reputation. you make a couple of bad decisions on a show and you get a bad reputation and you are not working for a long time. Most of it always has to do with money. It's one thing, we'll put up with your stupid personality most of the time, but nobody puts up with costing the production money.
Mm.
Right.
So, I mean, I know somebody he was going through a midlife crisis, completely didn't pay attention to what he was supposed to do, and ended up with costing the production, like, I think it was like $45,000. And it was not, and he, it's just like, it was, I felt really bad for him, but it took him a while to get back his reputation, and it is who I was working a lot for a while, and then the executive producer that I was working for decided to take 2 years off to have a baby, and no shows. And I'm just like, oh my God, So you have to like start networking again. You have to start figuring out, like, you start selling yourself, which is like my advice to kids all the time is uh, like you need to take your shot. Like, you should always bug me. I'm not going to remember that you need a job. So send me an email, send me a quick text that says, hey, I'm looking for work. Do it, because if I need somebody to hire somebody, I'm just going to start going, who recently called me? I think we're going to have a whole generation of traumatized children.
I was just going to say that.
Quarantine.
What I've noticed from my classes is there is less interaction now than there ever was. Like the kids just sit on the Zoom call and I teach them and they turn it off and they do their work and they turn it in and they're successful. There's nobody talks out. No one pops off. No one's a smart ass, which I enjoy. I enjoy a little spunk, little sassy kids or whatever. So I'm thinking Chuck might have a niche here with his certainty training. This COVID is creating this whole group of kids that are locked down. They don't.
I think, I'm going to hug people for long periods of time when we're allowed to, and people are going to think I'm a freak. But shaking somebody's hand, not being able to shake somebody's hand really is annoying me.
Yeah.
I just hate it. And I hate not being able, I mean, it's just, it is a year of this, or we're closing in on a year of it. And it just feels crappy. And I think we're going to have a traumatized society.
I mean, these kids are the pilot light is going out, Kathie. I mean,
Yeah.
they're just you can just see it dimming and dimming and dimming on that aspect. I'm not saying they're not being creative. I'm not saying they're not doing their work. They're learning. The test scores are still good. I mean, it's very strange, but that part of it, that social aspect, that jabbing, when me and Chuck start jabbing each other, whatever. I mean, all that stuff. There's no locker room talk. There's no clubs. It's very, I think that's, to me, we should be putting that on full speed. Like, how can we get these kids to talk to each other again? Is it a big Zoom meeting? Is it a small Zoom meeting? Do we do things virtually on purpose? Like, I just don't think my school district's doing that. Like, we're doing nothing outside of trying to teach.
Teaching, yeah.
And everybody's screaming about the kids, and I'm like, well, you're not doing anything for them. You're just trying to figure out the best way to teach World War II. You're not trying to teach them how to be, because all that stuff was natural for us. If a kid wanted to be a jerk in my class, okay, it's on. You want to spar a little bit, you're not going to win, and it was fun. Like everybody kind of laughed, and the shy kids, you sort of bring them out, they raise up their hand, boom,
Yeah, that's like part of teaching to me. It's also part of hiring a millennial and trying to get them to, here's how we come to work. This is the professional way of approach at things.
Yeah.
Even though the entertainment business is not professional at all. We are all of the crazy clown kids in class. We're those people all together.
I kind of like those people. I gravitate toward a lot of those people. So
I've always gravitated to those people. I've always had a hard time, and I have to say, full disclosure here, I went to high school with Chuck, but I don't think I ever met Chuck in high school. I don't think I ever talked to you, right?
You know what? I can remember almost everybody that I went to high school with. You know, I mean, I can remember them faces, but I don't remember talking to everybody. That's for sure. You know, I don't
Yeah.
remember. You know, I was a little more. You know, I vacillated between groups. You know, so I hung in a little bit in, but then then I got a girlfriend and that changed, and you know, so things changed, and I spent most of my time sitting on out at the quad, sitting on a brick bench and not talking to anybody. So,
Right.
but
Yeah.
but
Oh,
you
that's
know,
high school too.
it's interesting. It's interesting because couple what you're talking about, which is really pertinent to what's going on now. Eh, the fact that we are a society of kids who are on their phones a lot, so
Yeah.
their social interactions have diminished. You know, before COVID came. Now with the way things are, you know, all their interaction is on their phones.
Yeah.
We would literally have people sitting at school 10 feet away from each other, texting each other instead of turning around and walking over and talking to them, you know,
Oh,
and
I tell people on the show, walk each other, text each other. Don't get within 8 feet, 6 feet,
yeah.
stay safe, and I'm encouraging them to do that. But, it is, but for a teenager, somebody who's seriously trying to develop socially, I mean, if I think about high school, it was really, how do I survive for 8 years and for 4 years and get the hell out? Like,
Wow.
how can I, how can I be, how can I not bring any attention to myself? I was the nerdy theater kid. So at St. Paul High School, being a theater person was like, basically you did not exist. First of all, being female, you didn't exist.
Yeah.
But and sometimes you almost had to like tell people, hey, there's girls that go to St. Paul now too.
I don't know what you're talking about. I was very aware of the skirt concept. I was a public school kid, Kathie. So I came to St. Paul and I was
Which-
like,
So you were in high school and you kind of were just trying to get to the end of high school, and
I was trying to get to the end of it
what
and
what
survive it.
and what was the hardest thing about that? Where'd that come from?
Just to try to get, well, I think so I went to St. Benedict's in Montebello.
Okay.
So so my friends at St. Benedict's either went to Cantwell or Sacred Heart. And my mother wouldn't let me go to an all-girls school because she said it was unnormal or not abnormal. She didn't think it was, you go. So my choices were St. Paul or Montebello High School. And Montebello High School terrified the hell out of me. And my best friend was there, which was kind of weird. Why I thought, can't, seem too big. I'd get lost. So, I'm 4'11". So it's, that has a lot to do with, when you're short and you go into like the school. And in 8th grade, I played basketball. And in 8th grade, the summer of 8th grade, everybody grew and I did not. And I loved basketball. I totally understand basketball. I get that sport. Football, I have a hard time with because they're so far away. People are just running. And then, where I'm like, what happened? So I don't get football as much as I get basketball. It's like a ballet to me. I watch these players, you see how they move and work, and then baseball is just, it's painful to watch baseball for me because it just takes 5 hours for somebody to do something.
It's 5 minutes of action crammed into 3 hours.
Exactly. So I'm always like, so, I'm kind of like, all right, whatever. I got into soccer because my nieces play soccer. And so I love soccer.
Yeah, it's a good sport.
And people are running, and I love it. But I think at St. Paul, I went there and I was, maybe a dozen Latinos at St. Paul when I was there, one Black girl and I was a little, and I'm not sure you know this, Chuck, but I lived on Emirado off of Janine my junior and senior year.
Huh.
So I lived around the corner from you and Lisa Casey.
Huh. How funny.
Lisa Casey and I used to carpool my junior year, and then I got a car my senior year. And so I started taking my sibling, my sister to school and my brother to school.
That's funny. Yeah.
But yeah, we were right around the corner from you. And which was really funny is because I thought, I don't think I ever really met you in high school or talked to you in high school. You were like you're the football jock guy, like why there's no reason why,
Well,
unless you were going to
and
try out for a play.
I'll tell you what, we talked about that not too long ago, and somebody was asking me questions, and I was like, I don't know how I survived my insecurities, and people went, oh my God, you weren't insecure, and I was like, you have no idea how insecure I was in certain aspects of myself. And, the more adulation and stuff we got for football, the more I was like, I didn't earn that, where does that come from? And it frightened me to a certain degree. People laugh at me when I say that because they're like, yeah, whatever, that's not how you acted.
And other guys you're talking to though?
Other guys I'm talking to, yeah. Well, I'll tell you what, there's you're fascinating, and the things that you've talked about are really cool, and I'm glad that you're with us. I'm really interested in talking a little bit about your side business, your side hustle.
My side hustle?
Yeah, with the cards and stuff. That to me, and I don't know if you have any other ones you want to talk about, but
well,
that one.
The side cards I started them because, you always have to have a side business if you're going to freelance, right? Because there's going to be tons of time where you're not working. So you got to figure out, I need to keep working. I need to keep doing something. And I like hand making things. And the cards seem to be, they involved my photography. They involve quotes. I could be snarky and I could, and get away with it. And so I could create these cards. So I put them up on I put them up on a website. I try to sell them. And it turned into more of I started giving them away to people. So it's now a thing where I make a set of cards for people. I put together a specific card, and I have friends that are like, please don't give me anything for my birthday unless it's those cards, and I have, and
tell our listeners a little bit about what they are.
So the cards are, they're based on Instagram. And what I do is I post a lot of, most of them are snarky, quotes and comments, observations on life. They're always on my photos. I always take pictures and then I put the quote on my photos. And then I tell people that, not everybody wants to look at their snarky comments on Instagram, that they might want them like in a card, like they might want to post them and put them up on their bulletin boards. Or, if there is still bulletin boards up, God only knows, maybe those are gone away too. But maybe they want, maybe you should think about, so I like to put other people's Instagram posts, like Instagram posts. I don't know if you can see this. It says,
Yeah.
I'm feeling badass today. And so I like to put other people's Instagrams on a card and send it to them. And other people, but, I try to make it more of an old school meets new school, Instagram meets, a nice paper card.
Nice.
And I like making them. So I think that's what, it turned into more of my way of making something and then making something for people as gifts. So I give them away all the time. I put together a packet of them and give them to people as gifts all the time.
Are you involved in any other things creative? Are you doing anything else?
I think, what's funny is, I don't know if you can see, I'm trying to start a podcast too.
Nice.
I started off, so when I was unemployed for the 5 minutes that I was unemployed this year, I decided, okay, you know what, I'm going to start researching this. And I started getting equipment, software, that kind of stuff, and trying to figure out like how to do it, and trying to teach myself how to do it. And because I applied for a job to produce a podcast, and I thought, I'm going to do this podcast. It was Bill Simmons. You guys ever listen to Bill?
Yeah.
So
yeah, big one.
He has like 4 or 5 different producers, one that just deals with sports, one pop culture, he has different people. So I really wanted to go work for him because I thought he was great, but he was looking for more of a sports producer, and that's not me. So I'm more of a pop culture producer. So they told me, yeah, we'll call you when, the pop culture person wants to leave, but he was looking for more of a like hardcore sports person. So I still thought, oh, like maybe I can do this myself. Maybe I can do my own podcast. So that's literally what I've been like. I have a notebook with just ideas for shows, ideas for who I'd want to interview. I have so many ideas that I've just kind of like, okay, I've got to figure out like, you guys, I like the way, I listened to almost all your podcasts. I didn't get through your dad's entire 3 hours.
Well, thank you. Yeah.
Wow.
But I listened to I listened to them all, and I had, I got some good ideas. Like I like.
So you're our one listener.
Yeah. I like when the two of you talk to each other.
Oh.
You know what's funny? I was telling you, Kathie, we're in the process of cutting up stuff. We were so, I'll say for me, the shyness of putting, I've been a pretty private person most of my life. And Tom's been saying like, dude, we've got 60 hours worth of individual stuff that we've been talking about. Some of it's outdated, but I was like, dude, I have to go back and listen to it because they're so organic that we get on and we go for 2 hours and it's almost like more of a therapy session than it is anything else.
100%.
But
it's fantastic.
That's what it is.
But I was like, oh my God, we can't just put it all up. I don't remember what we talked about, so we haven't put it up. We've been editing and we're getting ready to dump a bunch of those on, which is more fun. I think those are fun for him and I, and
well, I think we have to get to know who you are. Like I'm as a listener, I listened to you the last 2 days in the car driving back and forth from Woodland Hills. And so I'm a big podcaster. I love to listen to podcasts in the car. That's my thing. And I listened to you and I realized, that I was thinking we haven't really been introduced to either one of them. Like I'm listening to your podcast and I'm thinking, I don't really know who Tom is. And I don't really know what Chuck's been doing for 42 years since I last saw him at high school graduation. So I was thinking, what we need a podcast where one of you interviews the other one, then the other one interviews the other one, where we understand who you are and where you're coming from. That's because cool. I kind of, after a couple of podcasts, I kind of got your idea of your personalities, but I also thought, and so what was the name of the nurse that was on, the COVID nurse?
Oh, Colleen.
Yeah.
Colleen. So
that's my wife.
That's the wife. Okay. So I didn't know that was your wife.
You can say whatever you want.
No. I didn't know it was your wife, but I suspected she was somebody, right? That you guys know, right? You like, and I'm also suspecting that everybody you're talking to is people that you feel comfortable enough to just say, hey, can you be on my show or whatever,
Yeah.
Which is what I would do totally too. I'd interview like my whole family.
Well, I'm available anytime you need somebody on the podcast.
Tom, you're next. I'm putting my.
Well, we're gonna
go on my notes. I'm gonna put you down on my notes.
Yeah,
we're gonna have to have a conversation at some point down the road. You might be getting an offer to produce our podcast.
To produce your podcast, I would totally produce your podcast. I have all kinds of ideas for you.
We're so green and raw. We had somebody that talked to us about it and said, "Look, just put your stuff up, dude. Don't think about it. Get stuff up. Get it up there." And I don't listen to podcasts that are 2 hours. I don't listen to anything that's 2 hours. I'm a 20-minute guy at best. I think what we should do at this point, whenever, go ahead, you can go ahead and answer.
1 hour, because most people are in their cars for 1 hour. So you've got to keep it at 1 hour. Yeah, and then I think you're going to have to find your cadence so that you also have to remember that there's a lag. So you have to, even though we don't speak to each other and we don't stop and pause and wait a beat before the next guy answers, we're just all on top of each other talking.
Yeah.
You're going to have, that's a podcaster thing where you have to like, wait a second and then answer the question, or then, it's a cadence that happens when you start to get. Do you ever listen to Dax Shepard?
I listen to Dax.
Armchair. Yeah. He's really good at that. He is good at the cadence of it because he has a partner that, kind of comes, I think he's kind of a new age Howard Stern. And I think I love him. I listen to him all the time. I listen to Alec Baldwin. Here's the thing.
I just told Chuck about that yesterday. Like, you gotta listen to it. I love his transitions where he talks he sets up the next piece. Love
Yeah.
the transition.
He is a good listener. He lets people go. You know, he just lets them go. And I think what he does is he trusts his editor. And I think you guys have such access to like kids. Here's what I've learned. Like, I don't edit anymore. I just go find some kid. Like, my nieces are probably better at editing than I am. You know, they know the programs. I don't want to learn. I don't want to learn an editing program.
Oh.
You know, let them learn. They already know it. It becomes, you know, I go find some kid, some millennial that's really into editing. I have a guy that I'm about to, I did this thing when my nieces were born, every single Christmas morning for 14 years. I was at their homes and I videotaped them coming down the stairs to see what Santa Claus brought them. So there's 14 years
Wow.
Wow.
of video I have of these two girls, and one girl loved to sleep in, the other one likes to get up early. So I'd go to the early, then I go over to the, and you know, and you see the transition. The first one, they're only like 9 months old. And then we move into, you know, so you see this thing and I am dying to put it together, but I went to look at the footage and I just thought, oh, just shoot me now. I can't do it. So I'm roping a nice nerdy millennial into stringing it all together, editing out all the stupid parts that, you know, we don't care about, you know, like where I dropped the camera a couple of times or the kid, you know, lunges for the camera. And so I'm going to have him edit it all together, because why do I want to sit here and do that?
I feel like our biggest challenge is we have all this sort of macho. It's easy for us to be macho. It's easy for us to talk. It's easy. We're so comfortable. We think on the same page, but we're super competitive. And that has actually, at least for me, and I know Chuck, because we've talked about it, it's sort of like, okay, is this what everybody else wants to hear? Or what do we need to do to make somebody else? I'm like, you know, are we getting away from what our sweet spot is versus, you know, trying to, I don't know. You know, I really feel like we can monetize this thing and be big. But is that really the point? You know what I mean? Like, I enjoy talking to Chuck. He makes me feel better. It is a therapy session both ways. We have similar experiences and similar things that, you know, and it's very, very, very hard. And I guess my question to you is, are there kids that can edit for free, or is that something you have to pay for, or is that for their resume, or how does that all work? Because I hate editing. I hate it.
Yeah, I have so many, you know, I've access because I'm working with people I'm hiring them all the time. And I always pay them because I always think you should pay them.
Sure.
And also I always think that, you know, depending on how good they are, how their talent is, but they can use it as, here's your first job, you know, like, especially if if you're getting them in college or outright out of college, in their editors, especially assistant editors. I've actually asked a couple of assistant editors. My sister got married and I shot a crap load of, you know, video, because I just shoot, you know, why, it's free, right? I mean, I don't have to have it developed.
Right.
So I go and I shoot a bunch of crap, and then I gave it to this guy and I just said, do me a huge favor and put this together, make it something.
I have a proposition for you. I know you had some questions for us, so maybe that'll be a good for us to answer some questions and maybe cut that up and people will find out a little bit more about us. How about that?
So am I asking you the questions right now?
Sure, and then we can come back and finish up some of the other things. I think that that would be a good break in the action. What do you think?
I mean, I think your feedback is unbelievable. Is there anything else that you wanted to say? Criticizing?
Criticize? No,
please.
I don't want to criticize.
No. We're football players.
1 hour for most podcasts to listen to. Stop just for one beat to answer each other's questions. It's awkward to talk, you know. It's one thing, you know, like you have a party, you're drinking beer, you're talking, and everybody's talking over each other. But on a podcast, we're trying to hear you, and also don't hesitate. Like, Chuck, you're the oldest, right?
Correct.
Okay, so don't hesitate to take somebody to the awkward place. Like, you stopped Matt when he was just about to start crying, and you turned into Big Brother, and you moved the conversation off of You did. You protected your little brother.
No, absolutely.
Moved him off the
And I
off
didn't
the-
realize it until I listened to it.
And I was thinking, no, that's what I want to hear. I'm interested in hearing what makes Matt cry. You know,
Mhm.
what makes this big ass guy who looks, you know, and I mean, I've seen him. I'm a huge NCIS fan, so I remember him from NCIS. And I used to see Dexter being shot all over town here in Long Beach.
Little Chino.
Yeah, and I just thought, damn it, I really wanted to find out what made this guy, and I wanted to know why was his daughter freaking out? Like, what, you know, like, what did your daughter think when you got emotional over this song? And I'm thinking, damn, you missed a perfect opportunity because you turned into big brother protecting little brother.
That's
And
so
I
great.
thought,
Yeah.
no. And I think giving everybody the questions ahead of time is really great, because then you don't have a lot. I don't remember, what was that, what year was that, you know? So you look it up, like you think, like as
I
the
thought that was fair. I thought that was a fair thing. Like that, I didn't want to cheap shot anybody, but you know, I don't know.
For Matt.
No, just for giving the questions out. That was kind of
Yeah,
my
no.
idea. I was like, give the questions.
Well, also you should always have Google. So like when Matt's going, I don't remember who was in that movie or who was in that TV show with me. You can Google it and remind him, and always make your guest feel like you've got their back. You know, if you don't remember, like, I can't remember, there was somebody else. Oh, what's his name? The coach of St. Paul.
Oh, Rick Cepeda.
Rick. Okay. So Rick said something and I'm thinking, oh, just Google it. Tell him what the answer is, you know, like, cause he was stumbling over something, but he was pretty good. You know, he was really
You know
good.
what my problem is, Kathy, is I'm trying to listen to you. I'm locked in because Chuck was asking me before to change the camera angles and stuff. And I'm like, there's no way if I'm going to be into the conversation, I'm going to be able to have a comeback or a follow up. I can't do it. And I know Rogan and all those guys have some dude sitting over there. There's
somebody off to the side who's literally the thing pops up and it says it was 1972 or, you know, whatever, whatever you're trying to remember. But I also think that when you give somebody like Matt, if you give him the questions ahead of time, he can prepare, like because that's what he does. He's an actor. He prepares, right?
Did you hear when he cut himself and he's like, yeah, redo. And he started over with the same, messed up on something and he started over again. I was like,
he'll say he was editing himself. He was saying, cut this out, like, you know, and
I left that in purposely because I thought that was the coolest moment. I was like, this guy is amazing.
When I didn't get the one sheet last night, I was freaking out. I'm like, I'm not going to be prepared. I'm going to ramble and I'm not going to know what to say. And I'm not going to remember things that I want to, like, you know, I was trying to remember a quote, you know, the question it was the 5 records. I'm thinking, oh shit, man, I got to remember, you know, there's a lot of records that I would, you know, so it was kind of funny. I was thinking give people, prepare them, give them a shot at being able to answer you coherently and not feel bad, you know, make them feel like, we're going to save you. Trust me, we're not going to let you make an ass out of yourself. Right. You know, we're going to keep you. And then you two, when you're talking to each other, which I really found more, because I'm fascinated by the bro conversation. Like, I don't, like, sometimes I'm always shocked and amazed when two guys will talk about anything past, you know, Monday night.
You know, we're like the anti-bro. That's the crazy part. I appreciate it, but I mean,
the bro conversation.
We're sensitive guys. What are you talking about? You know?
Well, yeah, like I was thinking they appear like they want to be sensitive, but they appear not sensitive.
Oh yeah, well, again, that's so true, and I get that from watching them and watching our stuff. That's why all the like I said, we have tons of hours of us talking about life and personal things and things that, you know, are true to our hearts and stuff, and then other stuff too, you know, sports and all that kind of stuff too. But to get a full rounded picture, it takes a little bit of
it's work.
Again, time. It's the editing thing. It's the putting the time in to get all those things up and running.
I didn't mean to sabotage Chuck's. Go ahead. You should take over for a minute. Do your thing, and let's.
Oh yeah.
Take the keys.
Oh, I'm sorry. I was just, I'm interested in hearing Kathy's.
Yeah, that's what I'm saying. Let Kathie do her thing.
Your
Yeah.
question? Wait,
Yeah, whatever.
so I wanted to know why you're apprentice Renaissance man.
That's my mistake. I was told that was not accurate.
Who do you look at as a Renaissance man that you would think, that's a guy doing the Renaissance game right?
I told Tommy before when he put that up, I said, make no mistake about it, Tom. I'm not an apprentice of anything. But the truth be told is I didn't change that and didn't want to change that because we're kind of always seeking, we're always open to learning. And I like that apprentice kind of concept, I started to feel better with that because that's the thing is I'm so happy that I've learned the things that I've learned. Again, going back to working in the hospital. I learned things I studied psychology so I could figure myself out. And that was my deal. Started out studying business, and I got through part of that. And my first job out of college I was a banker. I made loans. I was a loan officer, and I did that for about 4 years. And they told me I walked too slow, and things like that. Like I wasn't.
Did you ever want to be a cop like your dad?
No, not at all. I was as far left as you could get, and I have all kinds of stories about that. That actually we have some footage of that'll be up someday. That not too distant future. But no, I never really wanted to become a cop. I was a hippie leftist. I was anti. Again, my dad being a police officer for 30 years, there was a lot of anger and hostility toward the people out there. And I thought for a long time that my dad was really racist. And so I went the opposite.
Survival mechanism for them.
It was his story that he gave back to me about, he really, in an argument at one point, I laid into him and I went, don't give me that shit. You're as racist as anybody from back in the day. Now, I don't know if you still are, but don't give me that shit like you're a freaking mister. And he said, are you done? He goes, okay. So let me explain it to you. And again, the short story is that he said the anger and the hostility that was coming out of me at that time, it was after the Watts riots and all those kind of things that were going on. He said, when I used words that would be considered racist, he goes, I was talking about the criminals, the people that were torturing the good people and the caring people. And you need to understand, I worked in South Central for most of my career, and I loved those people, and they loved us, and they shared meals, and they shared their us taking care of keeping their kids safe. They loved us, and we loved them, and we were out there with them, and we did our job based on trying to take care of those people. But I was like, for a long time, I just thought I'm not going to be like that. I'm going to learn how to be a better man. And so police work was not every policeman that I was around during that time. I was very judgmental of, the macho stuff was too much for me. I didn't, and again, I built a lot of my personality during those years and it was kind of anti all that stuff. So, and my dad didn't bring home any of his work. He never talked about his job. They never sat around and drank beers and talked about, what they did on the job. I didn't know. I knew very little about his job. So,
do you think that was good or bad?
I think now that I'm this age and we've had 15 or 20 years maybe of getting to know each other and having those conversations, I think it was good because it kept us out of all that. And again, what he did, my dad has a reputation from the guys that I know. I've coached with a lot of guys or several guys that were, how do you put it? They knew my dad and they knew of my dad. So they won't tell me some stories about crazy shit that was going on.
Yeah.
And I think that if I would have heard a lot of those stories, it would have made it a lot tougher for me to really, appreciate those things back then. Cause I didn't know, but now, I know my dad better and we've had those conversations. So, but I didn't want to have that job every day.
I feel like when we get to have the different relationship as our parents get older, we get older, but because I had I'm the oldest girl. So my dad was basically felt I was going to go out, get murdered, raped, killed every time I walked out of the house. he was always so freaked out. I had like crazy ass curfews where my curfew was like 10. Like the football game wasn't even over yet. And I couldn't, I had to come home, he just, every guy was out to get me, like, and he was just, he was the guy that he always said, I know what those guys want. There's I know what those guys are after. And I would just be like, what are they after? I was like, so blue. I had no idea. But he was always so paranoid. And so I just did everything to rebel against him, all the time. I was always rebelling against my dad. And it wasn't until later that, man, we had long conversations and, he explained to me a lot of things, a lot of things that he finally sort of opened up, and I opened up and said things, so it was so amazing to have like a real good conversation before he passed away, that I could actually, say, ooh, man, I thank God I didn't miss that opportunity. And, I got to know him. Otherwise, this real tough, he worked 2 jobs. There's 4 kids. He's putting 4 kids through private school, and working 2 jobs. My mom's at home taking care of the kids. And, he's a guy, he worked for the Water and Power for 30 years, and so it's just, when I think of that, when I take, all these jobs and I'm trying to, make, and I've never been married. I don't have any kids, and I have a mortgage. So I have to pay my bills, and I have to take work. And when I think about how my dad must have been so stressed out, with just the responsibilities, I'm just terrified of the responsibility of a mortgage and,
Right.
racking up credit. But
Human beings.
yeah.
So
But
so the answer, you asked the question, who are the Renaissance
who's the
men?
Renaissance mentor?
You know what? It all started, and the reason I even knew what a Renaissance man was I was a big Johnny Depp fan.
Ah,
And Johnny Depp was an actor, and he was a guitar player, and he was in a band, and he was a poet, and he was, into the arts, and he was, he was all those things. And I just thought, that's who I want to be when I grow up. I want to be.
He needs you right now, Chuck. He needs you.
Yeah, I know he does, but I'll tell you what, I think he's sandbagging. I think he's a lot happier than he pretends to be. But that was where it all started. And I thought, I want to know about music, and I want to know about, art. And I've been fortunate. I've been really fortunate with having people in my life. I had a relationship with a woman, Tammy Rose, who Tom knows, and she's an artist, and she makes her living as being an artist, and
that's a tough living.
it is, and she's really, really good and fun, and and really, but she went to Otis, the Otis Institute, and was, again, so I got exposed to her stuff, and I've been involved with, people. I have a really good friend who's a musician for, umpteen years, died early and stuff, just a really wonderful person. But again, I got to see the process and stuff, and those things were fantastic. Like, people would want to talk football, and I'm like, I know enough about football. I don't want to talk about football. I want to talk about, what's different,
So, so I was, I don't know if you know this, Tom, but I was in charge of the 40th high school class reunion for our class. And I got all this freaking pushback for wanting to have this reunion on Friday. And I'm just like, what?
Friday in the fall, or what?
It was Friday in October. And I was just like, what is wrong with you people? Like, Friday night, like, what is happening? And it was like a constant, like, no, that's a bad date. That's a bad date. And I was trying to get the Long Beach Yacht Club. So, I'm just like, come on, people, it's Saturday. It was Friday night, Saturday night, grow up. What do you guys also, so I was really having a hard time with that. And then I heard you say that you've never seen your brother play at USC. You never saw him play football. And it was because you're working, right? And I was thinking, right. Oh man, that is okay. Now I get this. Now I understand why nobody wanted to have a reunion Friday night. And it wasn't nobody. There was two or three guys on our committee, and they were the ones that were like, no, you can't do it on Friday. I'm like, why?
That's funny.
But
Yeah.
yeah, so I was surprised at that. So what do most people get wrong about coaching, being a coach?
I can take that. You want me to take that, Chuck?
Yeah.
I think what most people, and I think a lot of coaches start out this way, sort of chasing their own demons, and of wins that they didn't get when they were players, and it just feels so natural to be in the locker room and in the coach's office and be in that fraternity, even if you're a little older and you're, I think that's the way everybody starts. But the guys who are good and the guys who put time, who've been there for doing it for 3, 4, 5 years, it really becomes about taking care of the boys and making sure they can grow up to be men and in a good way, and being a mentor, for them. I didn't have that. My mom was a single mom for a lot of my life, and I relied on my coaches and I relied on my grandfather, and I was able to really just take the positives out of every man I've ever met. I just took from them. I'm very, very selfish that way because I didn't get that and I think I'm better for it, to be honest with you. I didn't have to put up with my dad being an alcoholic and him being nice and him being mean and, bad Thanksgiving, good Christmas. I was able to just kind of get for the longest time, Chuck was my dad, and he still is. I mean, I feel that way about his leadership and his love for me. And he showed me a lot of things, and maybe I've copied him too much in some ways, especially when I was younger. And
But that's not bad as long as you're copying somebody.
But if you were to go watch a movie, if you put 10 movies up, including your boy Al Pacino in Any Given Sunday, and you watched the stereotype coach, it's not attractive for the most part. If you look at Matthew McConaughey in the Marshall video, you might think differently because he was a stud. But the problem is with coaching is people think that we're being selfish. For me, if I can't get up and change,
it's an ego thing,
right? Okay. And it's the opposite. Like I have to put away my ego to be with other men, the 10 other men I coach with, and I have to put away my ego to put the kid in the game that I really don't like. I coached girls softball for 30 years as well. So I was coaching girls in the spring and boys in the fall. And, there was some girls that did things that I found out about in their personal life that were awful to my sensibilities, but they had to play for the team to get what they needed. And, I remember, there was some really hard times with that. I just always hate the negative, rah, 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 all that kind of stuff. Any stereotype is bad, and any stereotype has a little bit of a seed of truth. But I just want people to see how I do it. I want you to ask the kids, or I want you to ask the young men, or I want you to ask the young women that coach. That's who you judge me by, not by my wins and losses. Because inevitably, my team, when I was a senior, did very, very poorly at St. Paul, which is very unusual at St. Paul. St. Paul's a winning football program. My team was very, very bad. Yeah, I feel like I learned so much from that experience, not only from the leaders that we had, the coaches, Miguel Almeida and Chuck Willig and those cats, but also the hardships of it and the grind of it. And I still showed up, and I think that sometimes sports can put you into some situations that otherwise wouldn't happen naturally and organically. Specifically right now in COVID, those kids aren't getting those experiences, and they're not being guided on how to react. And that's what I was telling Chuck this. I was like, this is a great opportunity to learn. We should embrace the suck and embrace the hardship, but guide these children through the pain so they don't feel helpless and feel like suicide is the option. But if I don't get up in the morning thinking that I'm going to change kids' lives, I'm not getting up. I'm hitting the snooze button. And I know that sounds hokey, and I know that sounds like, who do you think you are, dude, that you're going to change some kids' lives? But I just know showing up every day, being kind every day, having respect for the kids is enough in a lot of situations, and that changes their life. And I always tell the story about my dog looking at me when I come to the door. My dog looks at me like, okay, did he win or did he lose? And then boom, takes off or comes and licks me in the face. I guess I wore it like that, and I didn't do it well, and I thought that was my edge. Like I thought that having that much, being all in emotionally to a win or a loss was very important. I wanted to show that commitment to the kids. And it wasn't always, it didn't always work positively. And when I found that out, when I made some young ladies cry, there's no upside to that. You know,
Yeah.
when I made a kid lose his confidence on the football field, there's no upside in that. And
Yeah.
once that happened, I was like, oh, okay. And thank goodness I wasn't in a position to be a coordinator or a head coach when I was doing those goofy things and being that silly. When I stepped back and said, no, I want to be a professional coach. You know, there's a story where I went into a locker room and I screamed and yelled, you can't believe it. You know, you guys are not doing the job. And I broke a clipboard and I did all these dramatic things and I walked out and all my coaches are lined up. And I walked out and I said, how did I do? Is that too much? Was that good? And the guy went, I mean, that was all fake? I'm like, yeah, if I felt that way, I'm out of control. If I felt that way for real, you know, there's an effect to it. You know, there's a little bit of manipulation that I think has to happen. But
We are professional manipulators. No doubt. It's interesting the when I learned at the point when I learned this concept, it changed everything in my coaching. Because when I was young, I was and this is the term that I learned, I was a transactional coach. You know, you did things for me that I asked you to do, and that's how you got your positive feedback. You know, and so whatever the transaction was, you know, that's where we got our love back and forth. When I turned into a transformational coach, it was about changing lives. And I told the story not too long ago about, you know, when I took my first head coaching job, I never wanted to be a head coach. I was the best second in the business, and that was just perfect. I could do things that no head coach was able to do and didn't have the responsibilities that they had. But when I took the job, and I had learned this concept and I knew going in, but I said to the group in the first time that I met them, you know, you have one job, and that's to love each other. And me as your coach, I have one job. That's to love you. And they looked at me like, who the hell did they hire? What is this goofball coming in here? We're ready to go to war. And this guy's coming in talking about love. But eventually they understood the concept is that if I love you, I'm not going to let you be an idiot. I'm not going to let you fail in class. I'm going to confront you no matter how hard it is on me and how much time it takes for me. I'm going to confront you on all your bad behavior. And then I'm going to support you in all your good behavior so that you become able to understand that, wow, he really cares about me and loves me. We were a yes, sir, no, sir program. And if you had a problem on the field, you said, yes, sir, no, sir. Yes, sir, I'll do better, the best I can. Or no, sir, please explain it to me again. And that's all you get on the field. But when you go off the field, you can come in my office and you can sit down and you can go, fuck you, coach. I'm pissed. You know, I'm pissed at you. How could you say those things about me? How could you? And we could have those conversations. And I told Tom and I talked about this a little while ago. Once those kids did it one time, it changed the whole game. They went back out to our team and were better leaders because they knew that they could do that. So when we were on the field, the kid who hated authority, all I'd have to do is go, hey, and that kid would turn and go, oh, got you, coach, you know, and we'd move on. But it took building that understanding for them to be able to do that. And it changed everything. Our sign over the door in our coach's office was check your ego at the door.
Okay.
And every time we walked out as coaches, we had to tap that deal.
What was the first season that you had that? Like, who were you teaching? Who were you coaching?
I was coaching probably at St. John Bosco. No, that's not true. I think St. Anthony's, midway through St. Anthony's was my job after I coached at St. Paul for 4 years or 5 years, and then went on to St. Anthony's. And I would learn during that time about that concept.
See, Kathleen,
Bosco scares the crap out of me. I watched them play Modern Day, and those boys were like, I felt like, do they juice? Like, I just felt like first of all, they're huge, which seemed really weird to me that they were so big. And I kept saying, are you sure they're not like 22, 23 years old? Those boys that were playing, you know, I went to all the Bosco games with Modern Day because my brother-in-law is huge Bosco fans. Big Bosco, you know, guys that love to follow Bosco.
Are they St. Paul alumni?
Yeah. Well, my brother was St. Paul, but my brother-in-law went to Van Nuys High School.
Okay.
But they have a friend whose son played at Bosco, so they all got into Bosco, right? But of course, their daughters go to Mater Dei. So they have to, and my brother's nieces go to Mater Dei. So they had to sit there and suck it up while Bosco was winning. They couldn't get excited because they were sitting on the Mater Dei side. But I go and I went to these games and I thought, who are these boys? And even the boys that are cheering in the stands, I guess the freshmen and the sophomores, are scary. They're just like, I was just like, there's like way too much testosterone in this stadium. It was so crazy. But
And an all
I
boys
went to
school.
see a play at John Bosco. Anita, do you remember Anita Camarillo, right?
Of course, yeah.
So
yeah.
her boyfriend is the head theater music guy at John Bosco. And so John Bosco. And so I went to see one of his plays. We went to see the kids play. And I'm just like going, are there any football players? Like, where are those big giant guys I saw playing football,
See, he's a neat guy too. He's a musician as well.
I've gone to see him play. He plays over here at Glory Days. I mean, when we were all like gathering and drinking beer at a bar.
Yeah.
He plays there. He has like almost, it verges on kind of heavy metal, but his music's great.
Yeah. Joe Cowan is my godson. And
okay.
I coached Patrick at St. John Bosco.
So they're always there too.
Yeah.
Go Bruins. Go Bruins on that.
Yeah. Yes. Bruins.
Yeah.
Yes, my dad was a big SC fan, and then I went to UCLA, and I said, Dad, for the 2 years that I'm here, you got to suck it up and flip over to UCLA, and he was just like, oh.
Enjoy your week, and I will talk to you soon, and thanks again for coming on. It was great, and I think you had a lot of interesting stuff to talk about. So we'll look forward to the next time.
Thank you.
All right.
We'll see you later.
Bye. See you. Have a good week too.